Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live stream. We are sharing how you can get inspired with Unity. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and X. So, wherever you're joining from, let us know in the comments and we'll be reading through those. Let us know your name and what country you're joining from, and we'll be sharing them throughout the live stream. So firstly, to introduce ourselves while you're sharing in the chat, my name is Nuala. I'm the Global Engagement Manager with the Coder Dojo Foundation. And as part of my role, I run calls just like this, but also attend community events in person. And I'd also love to introduce you to my colleague, Mac. Mac, go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mac. I'm a learning manager here at Raspberry Pi Foundation, and I am in charge of writing our non-formal projects. So on the project site, I work with a team and we create those, and I was quite heavily involved in the Unity projects that we've got. So yeah, really excited to share it with you today.
Great, great. And I'll also introduce you to Thomas, who's joining us. Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name's Tomer Thomas. I work at Unity as a technical marketing advocate, and I'm stoked to tell y'all why Unity's so cool today. It's good to see you.
Amazing. Great. And I see we've people jumping in the chat. We've Tarek saying hi. Hello, Tarek. And be sure to keep those comments coming in throughout the live stream. So today we're going to be talking about coolest projects and opportunities to showcase young people's projects. We're also going to be talking about what is Unity and how you can introduce it to young people with our Introduction to Unity pathway. We're going to be doing a code along with Mac, and we're also going to share some projects that young people have already made with Unity in previous Coolest Projects events, as well as showing you some other projects that young people and adults have made too with Unity to show you what can be made with Unity. And then we're going to wrap up with some tips for those who are involved in mentoring young people, to highlight how you can support them using Unity, as well as taking your questions. So if you do have any questions at any point throughout the live stream, be sure to pop them in the chat and let us know, and we'll take them at the end of the stream. I also see we have Saeed joining. Hello, Saeed. Welcome to the live stream. So Coolest Projects is both an online showcase as well as a series of in-person events that are held in countries right around the world. I'll be highlighting some of those countries and the dates of the events later on in the call. But I wanted to first highlight what a great opportunity it is for young people to be able to share their projects with an international audience and with a wider group in those in-person events. All young people who participate in Coolest Projects get personalized feedback on their projects. There's also certificates and rewards for participating, as well as being chosen as VIP's favorite projects on our live stream that we run every year as part of the online showcase. We found that Coolest Projects is a great way to motivate young people, particularly in clubs, to develop their projects further, as well as developing wider skills such as project management skills, time management skills, as well as teamwork for those who prefer to work in a team to develop their projects. And a great reason to get involved is it's free. So all our Coolest Projects events are free to attend and participate in, as is our online showcase. And as well as that, the Coolest Projects Ireland and Coolest Projects UK event have opportunities for bursaries so that young people can attend if they need a bursary. So what can they enter? And this is a question that a lot of people ask us. So any kind of digital tech project across our 6 categories. So we have a web category, mobile apps, Scratch, hardware, games, which will be very relevant for today's call, and advanced programming as well. We've also the opportunity for young people to enter something completely new or to enter a project that they may have developed already at their club, and they can tweak or advance it how they wish over the period while registration is open, and then enter it into a Coolest Projects event. And I want to specifically highlight that all levels of projects are welcome. So regardless if a young person is just starting out with code and it's their first or second Scratch project, or whether they've been coding for a while and they've developed something quite technical, all levels of projects are welcome at Coolest Projects. Great. So now I will hand over to my very capable colleague, Mac, to talk to you about Unity, and be sure to keep those comments coming in the chat, and I'll be responding to them as well. Great. Over to you, Mac.
Thank you, Nuala. Thank you. Yeah, so we're here to talk about Unity today, which is a very exciting prospect for me because it's one of my favorite pieces of software, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever used. And I think young people will really, really love it. So Unity is a piece of software that allows you to create 3D experiences. And those 3D experiences can take the form of games, but they can also take the form of like interactive animations, or just like, you know, animations in general, 3D renders, that sort of stuff. It's basically a playground that lets you use 3D models and create your own things with them. It's really, really cool. You can think of it as a slightly more advanced Scratch with 3D. It's really, really awesome. Unity has been used to develop loads of popular games. You know, the games I see coming out are only getting more and more popular as time goes on. So I'm sure Thomas is going to share some of that stuff with us later. But yeah, and names that young people will recognize, like Among Us and Pokemon Go. Unity uses a combination of traditional sort of text-based programming, but there's also a lot of sort of graphical, or not quite block-based, but more graphical forms of programming that you can use in there as well. Unity, it allows you to develop, and allows young people to develop games for all sorts of platforms. So whether they want to make something that would maybe work on an Xbox, or on their PC or Mac, or on a mobile phone, Unity allows them to do all of that. And they can, you know, there's specific sets of tools they can use to create UIs and stuff like that, all within Unity. It really is an amazing piece of software. So Unity, you know, as much as I love it, I think as a newbie opening up Unity for the first time, it can be a little bit intimidating. And that doesn't mean it's not insurmountable. You can absolutely get on board with it. But I often liken it to kind of opening Photoshop for the first time and you can feel maybe a bit overwhelmed by all the options available to you. So you can see there's a screenshot of the Unity editor here, and there's so many different windows. And especially when young people are used to working with something like Scratch or Python, where the sort of UIs are much more simplistic, this can seem like a lot. So one of the first things I like to reiterate is that although there are a lot of windows, you're only ever really looking at one or two of these at one time. So as long as you know where to direct your attention, you don't need to be taking it all in and kind of absorbing every panel all at once. So I'll talk you through the Unity editor in a little bit more detail later when I kind of do my code along. But it's just an intro. It can look very intimidating, but with knowing where to look and a little bit of practice, it becomes second nature. So don't let that put young people off or put you off. It really is an amazing thing if you just kind of get used to it and do a little bit of practice. So if you have young people, or if you're a young person yourself and you are thinking, I'd really love to make a game for Coolest Projects, but I have no idea where to start, the best thing I can recommend is using our Introduction to Unity path. Now, this is designed to take you from never used Unity, never installed it, opened it ever, to making a full game with quests and extra characters and your own levels and collectibles, all the things, all the bits that you see in these hugely popular games. We kind of show you how to make them all. So like all of our paths, this is designed on the 3-2-1 make framework. So that basically means that there's 3 introductory projects which teach you new skills. You then get 2 design projects which help you kind of use those skills and practice them, but combine them and make your own design choices. And then there's finally an invent project, which is where you get to put everything together, use your own ideas, and make something truly unique. And the reason I say this is a great way to make something for Coolest Projects is we really do walk you through every step of that process to get you to making a game. And it's a great introduction. That being said, if you have some learners who already maybe know a little bit of Unity or are more comfortable with sort of game making in general, you can always start them on, say, the design the design projects, and that will help them sort of formulate their own ideas, come up with themes and that sort of stuff. So really there's like an entrance point for wherever your young people are. So if they've never seen it or are just getting used to this sort of stuff, really can recommend the Introduction to Unity path, which I believe there is we're going to share a short link with you later, but you can find it on our pathways page. There you go, look at that, Nuala did the thing. She's great like that. So yeah, there's 6 projects in this path, as I said. So we have the first project that young people do is called Explore a 3D World. So we kind of start with an intro to the Unity editor, and then we build up to creating a little character that you can run around the map and putting a couple walls for you to run around. So it's really a very gentle introduction to Unity and gets you comfortable with the interface and making things in it. So I'm going to do a little, a slight code along now. Now, I don't expect you guys to do this with me step by step, but due to both screen sharing and screen real estate limitations, I can't share both the steps I will be following and my Unity screen at the same time. So if you want to see the steps I'm going to be following, you can go to this short link here and go to the second, so not the introduction step, the second one, that's the one I'll be following if you want to see what I'm doing. But I'll kind of talk through the steps anyway. So if you can't go on there, you're not going to miss out, but for those curious, I wanted to provide you with that link. Cool, I'm going to try and do some switcheroo now. Go over here. Nuala and Thomas, can you still see my mouse, yeah?
It is there. Your mouse
Yes.
is beautiful.
Great, thank you. Cool, so this is the Unity editor. So like I said, there are a lot of windows here, which can, feel like a lot when you first get started, but you're only ever going to use a couple of them. So I'll start at the top here, where we have this big open panel is what's called the either the scene view or the game view. So this is where you make your 3D experience, your game or your animation. So this is where you drag models onto, where you can move them around. And you can kind of edit them and create your worlds. And then the game view is what will your camera or what you will see when you run the game. So this is where you can kind of preview what you're doing, but also create it. You can think of it a little bit like the stage in Scratch, right? Where you're dragging things on, and that's where you keep all of your objects and your world and things like that. Over here, we have the hierarchy window. So this is where we can see all of the objects that are in our scene. So at the moment, I don't have very much. I've got a main camera, which is what I'm looking through for this game. And I've got a directional light, which is just, a light that comes from one direction. It's the kind of one of the basic lights you get in Unity, but just make sure that we can actually see things and we're not shrouded in darkness. Down here, we've got what's called the assets panel. So this allows us to look at all of the bits we've got to make our games. This might be 3D models, it might be scripts that we've written, it can be different scenes and things that we've created that are, different parts of our games. Everything that all the tools we have to create the games live in this assets window down here. And then finally, we have the inspector. Now, there's nothing in here right now, but if I click on a game object, like the main camera, you can see that I get a bunch of properties. So whilst I can kind of play around with things in the scene view, I can also use the inspector to, really finely tune my game objects. So change things like position, make them bigger or smaller, and also change some variables and some things about how my objects work. So this gives me a little fine-grained control, but I can also drag things around in the scene view. So that's the first step, first little bit of this project. It just tells you how to make a new one, gives you a little bit of an intro to the Unity editor. So I'm going to start with creating a floor for my world. So I'm going to make what's called a plane. So if I go for a 3D object and then a plane. Now this has created a wide and flat floor. It's called a plane because it's only got 2 dimensions, right? It hasn't got a height. So, normal 3D objects, if you imagine a cube would have a height, a depth, and a width. This has only got a depth and a width. It hasn't got any height. So I'm going to use this for my floor. And you can create objects in many ways. So you saw then I right-clicked over in the hierarchy. I can also use the sort of file menu to add new things as well. We kind of show you all of those different ways. Now you'll also notice that when I click on an object, I get these arrows. Now these arrows allow me to move my object around in 3D space. Right, so I can move it up and down, back and forward and left and right. So it's a 3D engine, so I can move things in 3 directions. Now I'm just going to, I've messed around with everything now. So I'm going to use my inspector over here to just reset my plane back to 0, 0, 0. And then I'm going to find it again in my scene view. Great, there we go. We have a floor. That is the first big part of our game created. Now, at the moment, this is just sort of a plain white. It's looking pretty boring. So let's try, we're going to add what's called a material, which is, so there are two, when you create an object in Unity, there are two things. You have the model, which is the actual sort of dimensions of it. And then you have what's called a material, which is what gives it color, right? Which is what makes, you know, it's like a paint that we apply to it. So I'm going to make a new material in my assets. I'm going to call it floor because that's where it's going to go. And then over here, I can change what color my floor is. Now, I quite like a grassy tone, so I'm just going to add a little bit of a green color to it. I'm going to make it a bit dark so it's not hard on the eyes. So now I've got this green material down here, and I can drag it onto my object, and you can see it applies it in real time. So this is one of the really, really cool things about Unity. You don't need to build and compile every time to see some of these changes happening in your scene. So now I've got a floor, I've got a material, it's looking much cooler, not just that kind of plain white anymore. Now let's make an actual game object. I'm going to make a little cube. Now this is going to eventually form into my wall, but let's make a little cube to start with. So I've created a cube, it's in the center of my world. You can see it's sort of half in the plane, but that's fine. I'm going to position it. Very carefully. So you can see now, as I said, I'm only ever really dealing with one of these windows at once, and most of my time is going to be spent in this scene view. So let's drag that up and put it right on top of my plane. All right, so you can see I'm at y 0.5, so the center point of this cube is right in the middle of it, which is why it's 0.5 and not 0. Great, so I've moved that up now. Now I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it look a bit more like a wall, because at the moment it's kind of equal on all sides. So the project instructions telling me to change the cube into a wall by adjusting its position to 1 in the Y and 3 in the Z, and then adjust its scale to 2 in the Y, 5 in the X. Sorry, I missed that 5. I should have seen that before. And then 0.25 in Z. So now you can see I've got a wall. It's a bit thinner than my cube, and it's kind of wide and tall. So yeah, we're starting to look a bit like a wall there. But again, we've got this plain, you know, it's plain white color. It doesn't really look, you know, that's a very clean wall if that's what we were going for. So instead, I'm going to make another new material color this again. So I'll go into my assets panel, create a material, I'll call it wall, and I'm going to make it a sort of red brick color. And then I'm also going to add what's called a texture to it. So a texture is an image to lay over the top of an object. So when we have a 3D object, we might have an image that gives it, it can give it a little bit of depth. It can add a bit of interesting texture, which is why it's in the name, to an object. So I'm going to give this one a brick texture. I'm going to drag that onto my wall. And now we can see that just by adding that texture and a bit of color, we've got something that looks much, much more like a wall.
It's beautiful, really.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. That's the
Artistic.
encouragement I needed. And you can see, you know, all this is just following the project steps, and we've already got something that's starting to look more and more like a game. So I'm also going to, in my hierarchy window, I can rename objects so that they are easier. Oh, zoomed in way too far. I can rename objects so that they are easier to find. So this is not a cube anymore. Now it is a wall. So I'm going to call it wall. And then I'm going to make a copy of it by duplicating so that I have 2 walls. So I'm going to use my arrows. Again, we can use these arrows to drag things around if we want, or we can use the inspector. I'm going to drag it over here, and then I might rotate it. So I can do that by changing my tool from the move tool, which is up in this sort of selection here, to the rotate tool. And now I can kind of spin it to get these walls to kind of face different directions. Again, I might just want to make that really fine-tuned going in there. Great. And then we'll move it back a little bit. So that's great. We've positioned it. We've made 2 walls. And now I'm just going to make my plane a little bit bigger so that I have some more room to run around on. So again, I'm going to use the hierarchy here. Oh, not quite 10. That was a bit overly large. Make it 4 by 4. So again, I've got kind of 2 walls in the middle here, but I've got a lot more room to run around. So I've saved my project. We can see, looking in the game view, what my camera can see. So that is the first step done. Now, rather than leave this here, I will show you what this ends up as. So here is one I made earlier in my Blue Peter moment, where I've got a little raccoon character. And if I click the play button up here, that kind of compiles and runs my game. And then I can use my little raccoon character to run around my world. And this is where they'll get to by the end of the first project. So you can see we've got a little animation on this raccoon. So you can see when he's running and he stops that animation when he's not. And that's, yeah, where they get to by the end of the first project, just by following the simple steps. So let me come back to you guys now. Hopefully this all works. Amazing. Oh, Thomas is still here with me. Thank you.
Oh, I'm not leaving you. This raccoon's my favorite character. I'm always here to see him.
Yeah, he's the best. Yeah. And we've got different outfits for him as well. So you can have a little party hat or a construction outfit. Really, really cool. He's the best.
He's rad.
Cool. I'll just add these back in here now. Great. So that was the first project called Explorer 3D World. We then go on to add some collectibles. So it's called Star Collector is the next project. We then make some non-player characters or NPCs, which can give quests, but also act as obstacles to the players. We then go on to the design projects where they build their own 3D world, where they really can get creative and create something really amazing. And then they create some quests. So have some NPCs, give them some quests, some things they have to complete. And then, as I said, that 3D adventure, that event at the end is a really, make their own game, bring their ideas to life. So just by following these simple steps, you get something that you can submit to Coolest Projects, which I think is really, really cool. So, oh, my GIFs aren't working, but it's okay because I'm going to show you stuff anyway. So you can see here we've got our NPC, the little rat guy who's giving you a shield. We have the world builder where you can create these sort of hills and trees and all that sort of stuff. And then we have an example of an event here. So I'm just going to stop my screen sharing so that I can show some of those end products. Screen, Chrome tab.
Would you like me to show them? Or no, you got it.
I think I've got it, yeah.
Amazing.
So if I do that, yeah.
Amazing. Very
So
good.
here we have, oh, that's in the wrong window. Can I zoom in there? Yeah, great. So here we have an example of somebody who's obviously followed the Intro to Unity path. You can see this is very much based on what we were just making a moment ago, right? With a big kind of plane and a couple of walls, but they've added in some, some quests, some NPCs. So he's lost his favorite rock and now we have to go try and find it. I know. So yeah, we've got lots of different characters to interact with. You can see the different outfit for the raccoon. So this is something that, somebody has taken just based on that initial project, added something to, and they can submit this to. This is an event example. So you could submit this to Coolest Projects and it would be awesome and we would love it. You can also go, some would say a little bit further and make, say, Crossy Rat, which is an example of a, you need to get this rat, I believe, I always forget, across the road without letting him get hit by cars, which is very exciting.
That was so close.
Yeah, I know, just his tail probably got clipped a little bit. So yeah, this is, again, we've got some more sort of NPCs, we've got some obstacles there. And then you can even go really far and make a sort of full-on adventure. So this is called the Rat Queen's Party, where you need to collect some cheese for the Rat Queen. So this has got a bunch of quests. You're in this castle that the rats have taken over, and then you've got to go kind of find things with some So this dog has buried some cheese in the back garden, so you've got to go find that. So yeah, and these are all examples of things that have been created using the exact steps in those event projects. So these have not been submitted to Coolest Projects yet, but they could be, because they're awesome and we love them. But let's have a look now at some actual Coolest Projects entries. So I'm going to show you some videos, but you'll still hear my voice over the top. Thomas, feel free to kind of pitch in as well if you see something that you like.
Sounds good.
Let me just get it up and play. So the first one we've got, show that. Make sure to unmute yourself, Thomas, by the way, otherwise we won't be able to hear us.
That makes sense.
Oh, look, I'm still unmuted. So this is a version of Star Collector where they've added this lava texture in. They've made it so you have to go find all these stars. You've got a double up power up here. So this is literally just taken from the project path that you've seen. They've added their own flair. They've added a lot of particle effects. You can see those little shiny bits just to make things stand out. Again, this is all done within Unity. It's really awesome. And then they've submitted this to Coolest Projects, and it did well. It was great.
I love that they use the particle effects to call attention to some of the pickups. That's whether or not they knew it, that's a really, really good design principle. Right,
awesome. Exactly. There's lots to take in. You got to draw the player's attention somewhere, right? So that's awesome. So here we got another example. This is code to drive. So this is an example of you drag these blocks to control your car. So you can see we're saying go forward, and then the car's going to turn right. And it went off the side of the road, so it crashed the car. All right, so this is a combination of UI with a little bit of sort of almost a block-based programming. So they've obviously taken some lessons from Code Club, Coder-Dojo there. Really awesome example. A nice version of a puzzle game, which I think is really, really interesting. I'd love.
Yeah, that's really advanced use of the UI system too to make that happen.
Right, exactly. To trigger, to do that, and yeah. Honestly, I don't even know, off the top of my head how I would do that. So yeah, very, very impressive. Yeah. And then this can go all the way, right? So all levels are welcome. So here is, I think, the most impressive one I've ever seen. Anyway, it's called Splat. So Splat is you play a jelly spaceship. Trying to collect key cards to get into elevators to progress to the next level. So here we have a control system on the screen. So you can see it would really work well on a mobile device. They've made enemies. They've got kind of collectibles. I've even seen in one of the later things, they've got different skins for the spaceship. So when you collect some recycling, you can reskin your spaceship and get some collectibles. So yeah, Coolest Projects really is all levels are welcome. And all of these games can be made using some of the tools that you have learned in the project path.
Amazing. Great.
So I think over to Thomas.
Yes, over to Thomas.
All right. Well, those projects were absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see what comes from this next challenge. It always blows my mind to see the creativity that comes from students and learners in general, as you give them a little bit of tools and you just run off with it and create these amazing things. So I just want to speak briefly on, once you've learned some of these basic skills, where you can go and the possibilities that are available for you. So I could talk a whole bunch, which I'm really good at, but I figured we could show a couple quick little videos first, and then we'll jump forward into more of the presentation. So please play the videos.
Great.
You got what it takes to go head to head? Prove it.
So I thought we'd play that to give you a little excitement about stuff you can make and all the different varieties of games you can make, because as you've installed some of the student projects, you can start with something really basic and you can take it all the way to a super low poly blocky game, or you can go super realistic like with that Lions demo, which is amazing. And thank you for moving those slides forward, because I do want to call out, if you are over 16 and you are a student, that link will get you free access to the Unity editor, as well as some free assets to start your prototype as well, that you can combine with the stuff you're doing with the Coder Dojo lessons and the Raspberry Pi org lessons, or with other lessons and things you want to build, because we want to make sure that students get access to the resources you need. So if we jump to the next slide really quick, I really want to show that difference in fidelity. So this is a shot from one of our demos called Enemies. And as you can see, that is incredibly realistic and incredibly powerful. You know, you've got this beautiful depth of field coming in across the fire, her hair blowing up in the background. And if we jump to the next piece, there's also a lot of other really, really amazing games made with Unity. I know Mac and Nuala mentioned them earlier, but, you know, we've got games like Cuphead, Among Us, Hollow Knight, Marvel Snap, which I have sunk way too many hours into. Way too many hours. And the games like V Rising as well, right? And stylistically, the power of something like a real-time 3D engine lets you choose how you want things to look, how you want them to feel, and customize and bring your vision to life. So always remember that as you're learning these skills and you're growing, you're just taking steps towards creating whatever your vision is for these games and these titles. I believe I have one more slide in front of me. Yeah. So once you've moved through some of these introductory courses and you want to keep going and you're looking for more resources, learn.unity.com is free. I believe, Mac, when you worked on a lot of the content for Raspberry Pi, you were working with our Learn team, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely, we were, yeah.
Awesome people that love, and we're all big Raspberry Pi fans as well. You've got your free student license access. Again, you do have to be 16 due to data rules, but you get free assets, you get discounts. And if you're going to start things off on Learn, we have a Unity Essentials pathway that can get you comfortable with what the industry is like on top of what you're learning. And then we have a Creative Core or a Junior Programmer pathway, which if you want to go more down the C# coding route, you can do that. And then we have Creative Core, which is more down everything that isn't C#. And I want to call something out as well. We actually have visual scripting in Unity as well, which is full programming functionality done through a node-based system. And I'm a huge, huge fan of it. I actually think it's super powerful. As a programmer and a developer, I actually really love using visual scripting as well, because it gives artists that don't want to mess with text-based code like me power to create systems. And then me as a developer, I can interact with them too. So check that out as well. And again, thank you so much for having me, and good luck on this challenge. I can't wait to see the end products.
Great. Amazing. Thank you very much, Thomas. And that was a great thing you mentioned as well about the assets, because as well on the introduction to Unity path, those assets of like the rat and the raccoon and the dog, they're all included. There's a package that you can download straight from the project path itself. So you have all those assets to work from, which is great for young people. So they don't need to worry about trying to create or get their own assets. Right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Over to you, Mac.
Yes. So just a few tips here. If you do want to introduce this to young people in your club, or if you have somebody who's really keen, you think, I just don't know how to get on board with this, I would really recommend doing at least the explore projects first, or at least having a look at them. You don't have to complete the whole path in order to be able to introduce this, but I think getting at least that first few projects under your belt will really help you be confident in kind of directing them around the UI and understanding the things that they're talking about when they talk about the hierarchy or the inspector. Just knowing that will really, really help you. The projects themselves have loads of built-in debug tips, so we'll help that if we think something might go wrong, or if we know that a common mistake is there, we'll point it out. So a lot of the time it will just be about helping them reread the project and make sure that they follow those debug steps. So we try to make it as smooth as possible for you to introduce this. Yeah, it does. Unity does need a more recent computer. It's with this kind of 3D engine capabilities. It can be a bit taxing. But to be honest with you, if you're not building anything too taxing, you can get away with not a huge. You don't need a £3,000 gaming PC in order to run it. As long as if you're making the things that we're making today, a more recent but definitely not top of the line computer will be fine.
The £3,000 PC does help with physical fitness though. So if that's one of your goals as well with learning.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Both. Yeah, hit some New Year's resolutions if those are still going, right? Build games and work out. Yeah, great. So that's that. And then the other thing is they're only, the difficult thing with course projects and with sort of these pathways in general is coaching kids through that design stage. It's a really big jump to go from follow these instructions exactly to come up with your own ideas and implement them. So just make sure they have lots of time, make sure they don't have to come up with an idea immediately. If they know they're going to go into that next week, you can give them, spend some time this week thinking about what you would like to make, how you'd like to combine those skills, and just help them. If they have big ideas, that's great. They can have lofty goals, but help them manage that first little bit, and that will really help inspire them to keep building on it and hopefully get to something like Thomas showed in the video.
And if I can add, a lot of our most successful educators do a really good job on managing failure. And I mean failure in a positive way, because it's okay to go for a big goal and miss it, as long as, at least in my opinion, you step back and say, well, what happened here? And you analyze it after. And I think that's a really powerful skill that students actually learn from learning game development in general. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think,
And I think that's also a great point for coolest projects as well, that like the projects don't have to be perfectly finished projects. If it's still a work in progress and you've developed it somewhat, but you still think that there's other things you might like to add, you can still enter it into coolest projects and mention that in your entry. So yeah, great point.
Exactly. It's not a celebration of only the successes. It's about the entering. That is that's the point of the whole thing, is to I've set that goal, and we love seeing all of them. There's just some, I think these have uploaded anyway, but there's all the instructions you need are within the Unity projects. So how to set it up, how to install the Unity hub, and get those assets, that's all written out for you in the project, so we'll get you started. Perfect. Did we have any questions?
Great. So we had lots of people checking in. We had Brian and Paras. We had someone saying, what a great idea for a webinar as well. Saeed shared that they love Unity as a game engine, that it's easy to learn and you can build amazing games on it. Going to make a nice 3D game this time and also use Unity in coolest projects. Great to hear. But we had no specific questions. Wondering, I think you just did such a good job with your demonstration, Mac, and highlighting those as
Thomas
well.
too. We just we answered all the questions as they appeared.
That's it. Great. Well, I just wanted to highlight as we wrap up the live stream that Coolest Projects 2004, the online showcase registration is now open, and it's open until the 22nd of May. So young people can register their projects anytime from now up until the 22nd of May for the online showcase. And then we also have a series of in-person events. The Coolest Projects Ireland and Coolest Projects UK events are being run by the Raspberry Pi Foundation, but there's also Coolest Projects events being run in other countries around the world on different dates that you can see here on the slide. So if you're in one of those countries, be sure and check them out so you can enter in young people's project ideas. And in terms of the Coolest Projects Ireland and UK events, I just want to highlight again that there is partial bursaries available for young people to travel to those events to participate. So do check out coolestprojects.org for more information about all of these events, as well as the online showcase. Great. And we actually have one question.
I know, I just saw it come in at the last minute there.
Great. Do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, of course. So Visual Studio Code is the code editor that we use in our project pathway for Unity. So it's the Visual Studio Code editor. So not full Visual Studio, but the sort of more lightweight version. We recommend. I think it works great with Unity. So we show you how to set that up. So that's what that meant, that line there was. But as I said, everything is in the project for, these are the things you need. This is how to set them up. This is how to integrate them. So we'll walk you through all of that.
Brilliant. Great. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining. It was really great to have you on the call, Thomas, as well from Unity, to have you talk us through some of those amazing projects and things that can be made with Unity. And thanks as well to Mac for his demo and for highlighting about Unity as well for clubs. So great. Thank you all very much and
you.
hope you all have a lovely day. Bye.
See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.